So we have already developed the analytical model for the amplitude of the steady state response in the vibratory system, which is subjected to the forced vibration, and the system which is vibrating to the rotating unbalance. So that is actually this part of the equation is because of the general harmonic excitation, and this is actually because of the rotation and balance. And that mathematical model in terms of stiffness, mass, and damping is actually 1/, under the root k minus m omega square whole square plus c omega square. And in terms of frequency ratio r and damping ratio zeta, the mathematical model is actually 1/, under the root 1 minus r square whole square plus 2 zeta r whole square. So here we have already that model, and actually we just developed the mathematical model for the amplitude of the transmitted force. And here again we see capital X. Somehow if we replace this capital X with Ft, then in the this analytical model, actually we would have the transmitted force. So what we would be doing, we have to find x from here. So we have to bring this quantity on the other side of the equation. So capital X would be Ft by under the root k square omega square c square, and putting that here for x in this equation. So here what we would have Ft by divided by under the root k square plus omega square c square. So we have here Ft. So Ft is written here, and in the denominator here we would have F naught under the root k square omega square c square, and we are writing that quantity here in the numerator. In the numerator here we have 1. So when it is multiplied by 1, we would have F naught under the root k square plus c omega square. Uh, so now we have the mathematical model for the transmitted force. So here you could see that this is the transmitted force, and the model is in terms of stiffness, damping, and mass. And the independent variable is frequency. Independent variable is frequency. So this is actually the mathematical model for the transmitted force, amplitude of the transmitted force in terms of um in terms of frequency. Or in other words, this is the frequency response. Frequency response of the system with respect to transmitted force. We defined the new term with respect to vibration isolation or transmission of the transmitted force, and that terminology is transmissibility. It is denoted by capital T subscript R, and it is the ratio of the amplitude of the transmitted force to the amplitude of the force of excitation. So in case of general harmonic excitation, the transmissibility would be Ft by F naught, whereas in case of rotation unbalance, the transmissibility would be the amplitude of the transmitted force to the me omega square. So using this mathematical model, we could find out the transmissibility. Just we have to bring F naught on this side of the equation. So the transmissibility would be equal to F T by F naught, and it would be equal to k square c omega whole square k minus m omega square whole square plus c omega square under the root. So we have the equation for the transmissibility in terms of stiffness, mass, and damping, and it is actually the function of frequency of excitation. So next we have to actually uh, make this equation a dimensionless equation. So we would be using the same procedure. So we are taking k common here. So outside we would have k square. So 1 and m by k, and m by k is 1 over omega n square. So we would have omega square by omega n square here, and omega by omega n is r, so meaning that here we have r square, so 1 minus r square. And I am taking k common here, so outside we would have k square, and inside we have c by k, and c by k is actually 2 zeta by omega n. So here we would have 2 zeta by omega n, and omega by omega n is r. So here we would have 2 zeta r. K square is here, k square is here, so we can take that k square common. So let's say we have taken k square common, it is here, and taking k common here, so outside the parenthesis it would be k square and c by k, and c by k is 2 zeta by omega n, so here we would have 2 zeta r, and taking k square common, so writing that k square here, so here we would have 1 plus 2 zeta r whole square. That k square would cancel with this the k square in the denominator. So afterward we would have what? We would have 1 plus 2 zeta r whole square, 1 minus r square plus 2 zeta r whole square, and whole under the root. So the transmissibility, that is ft by f naught, is equal to this quantity. And if we look here on this side, it is ratio, so no unit, and also on this side damping ratio is a ratio, so no unit, and frequency ratio is a ratio, no unit. So we have a completely dimensionless equation. So next we have to simulate this equation, and we have to plot the this equation at a range of frequency ratio and for different values of zeta. So doing that, so along the vertical we are taking the dependent variable, which is the transmissibility, and along the horizontal axis we are taking the independent variable, which is the frequency ratio, and we are plotting that mathematical model for different values of zeta. Zeta is equal to 0, zeta is equal to 0.25, zeta is equal to 0.5. So this is actually the simulation plot. Once we have the simulation plot, then we have to look at the response, that is the transmissibility, and then we have to interpret some useful information, or we have to take out some useful information from this simulation. We could look at frequency ratio of 1, which means resonance, and we could see that near the resonance the transmissibility is maximum, and at lower frequencies ratios the transmissibility is almost 1, irrespective of the damping ratios. Whatever is the damping ratio, the transmissibility would be 1. 1 transmissibility means that the transmitted force would be equal to the amplitude of the excitation force. So these two would be equal at lower frequencies. And as we speed up the machinery, or as we increase the frequency of excitation, and when the frequency of excitation matches the resonant frequency or natural frequency, what we would have the maximum transmissibility. Maximum force would be transmitted to the foundation. Maximum force would be transmitted to the chassis or frame of the machine, and in that case, maximum force, maximum vibration would be transmitted to the surrounding, which we don't want, which we don't want. So if you want to control the amount of transmitted force to the surrounding, to the foundation or chassis, if you want to decrease it, so we could see here that by increasing the damping ratio, we could lower down the amount of transmissibility to the surrounding. So if you want that at resonance, the amount of transmissibility need to be less. So in that case, you have to increase the damping in your system. Here we see a very important point where all of the simulation lines are passing through this point after the resonance, after the resonance, irrespective of the damping. And at this point, the transmissibility is 1. So after the resonance at a frequency ratio, at the frequency ratio of under root 2, actually again the transmissibility would become 1 irrespective of the damping ratio. And after a frequency ratio of under root 2, if we further increase the frequency ratio, then we could see that all of these lines are below the transmissibility of 1. So it means that actually afterward, if we increase the frequency ratio, then the amount of force transmitting into the foundation with with slowly and gradually it would reduce. And at very high frequency ratios, at very high frequency ratios, the transmissibility would be almost uh, zero. It would be near zero. So meaning that at a very high frequency of excitations, if the frequency of excitation is too far or too more than the natural frequency of the system, so in that case, the amount of force transmitting into the foundation, that would be very, very small, very, very small. So very important information is actually hidden in this simulation. So we could divide this plot into two regions. So this line, this vertical line, is actually dividing this plot into two regions. This region, we could see the amplification. We could see the amplification of the transmissibility at near the resonance. So this region is known as amplification region. And here in this region we see a considerable reduction in the transmissibility after the frequency ratio of under root 2. So this region is known as isolation region. This region is known as isolation region. What does that mean? It means that if we want that very little amount of force is if little amount of force is transmitted into the foundation, for that we have to be very careful. We should know the natural frequency of our system, which is omega n, and we should operate our machinery at a high speed, at a very high speed. More is the difference between omega and omega n. Lesser would be, actually lesser would be the transmitted force or transmissibility. So it means that in order to isolate our machine from the surrounding, or surrounding from the machine, we have to operate our machine at a very high speed, and we should know the natural frequency of our system. Near the resonance, we could see the peak here. Actually, these peaks represents the damped natural frequency, omega d. Omega d is actually equal to omega n under the root 1 minus zeta square. So actually, this is the peaks represents actually the omega d. So remember that 1 represents omega by omega n is equal to 1, means resonance, undamped natural frequency. Uh, when the frequency 1 represents when the frequency of excitation is equal to the undamped natural frequency of the system. And here this is the resonance condition with respect to the damped frequency. So you have to keep this in your mind. So very important information from the plot. Also, again, if we look at the plot, we could easily see that if the speed of the machinery or frequency of excitation is too high, then very little amount of force would be transmitted into the foundation. So if you are starting the machine and it is the rotating machine or any machine, then if we start up that machine slowly and gradually and it speed up slowly and gradually, so the machine would see the resonance. And once it see the resonance, then in that case, maximum amount of force would be transmitted to the foundation or to the chassis, and actually the surrounding in the surrounding the adjacent equipment would also vibrate, the ground would vibrate, the foundation would vibrate, the chassis would vibrate, the frame of the machine would vibrate. And then if the speed is further slowly and gradually increased, then we would move into the isolation region, and after some time the transmitted force into the surrounding would slowly and gradually dies out. So this would happen if we speed up or increase the frequency of excitation slowly and gradually. But if we speed up the frequency of excitation quickly, then in that case, our machine would not see the resonance. Quickly, we would come in that region. So in all those machines which speed up quickly, then in that case, actually the machine would not see the resonance and the machine would not vibrate at all. And also the transmitted force, we would come directly to the isolation region, and the amount of transmitted force to the foundation, it would be minimal. Even we would not actually feel that transmitted force, or the foundation would not feel that transmitted force. Next, we would be discussing a very interesting um, problem of, let's say, a real complicated problem. And we would actually treat that complicated problem, and we would treat that problem with the knowledge up till now which you have gained, and we would make it very easy. In real sense, it would be very difficult, but for the people who have the knowledge of the vibration, we could actually solve that problem within minutes. So let's say we have a helicopter uh, rear rotor unbalance. So let's say this is the helicopter. You see the helicopter, it's a combat helicopter. This is the rear rotor. This is the rear rotor of the helicopter. In this picture, you could see the rear rotor here. And that rear rotor actually controls the spin of the whole helicopter. So the purpose of that is that. And let's say one of the blade, because of any reason, because of the any reason, one of the blade of the rotor becomes unbalanced. So find the vibration amplitude due to unbalanced tail rotor. So it is a actually real system, continuous system. And the problem is given to you that because of any reason, actually the rear plate or blade of the helicopter rotor, it becomes unbalanced, and you have to find out the amount of vibration which could be produced because of that. So practically, experimentally, actually it is a difficult task, because you have to go to the army uh, airport, and then you have to get access to the helicopter. You have to see the blade, you have to measure the mass, everything you have to install, the accelerometer. You need large amount of equipment. So normally, maybe if to get access to that helicopter, that place, you would need actually um, you would need, you have to put an application, you have to put an application, and you have to wait, and then you have to gather your equipment. So meaning that, in short, it is a very laborious task. But since we have learned the modeling in this course, so we would be using that tool. And this is actually the beauty of the modeling. We very complicated problem, very laborious problem, we would solve that problem with very ease with the modeling within few minutes. So what other information, for example, if somebody gives you that problem that you have to find the amplitude of vibration because of rear rotor unbalance. So you need to take the information. You are engineer, so you have to actually gather that information from those guys. Number one, what is the stiffness of the tail of your helicopter? You just put a call that what is the stiffness, and he said that the stiffness of the tail of that helicopter is 10 raised to 5 Newton per meter. So you got it. What is the mass of the tail? The mass of the tail is 60 kilogram. What is the mass of the rotor? They check their manual of that helicopter, and they say that the mass of the rotor is 20 kilogram. And next question, where is the unbalanced mass? What is the offset of this unbalanced mass from the center of rotation? This is the center of rotation. Let's say this is the unbalanced mass. The distance between the unbalanced mass and the center of rotation, we define this eccentricity E, and E is 15 centimeter. I got also that. The mass of unbalance, and they told us that the mass of unbalance is 0.5 kilogram. Damping ratio, the material, the material which actually the helicopter has, which in this case probably the aluminium alloy, and actually we would say what is the damping ratio, and he just checked the manual and he come up that the damping ratio is 0.01. So we got our information. As an engineer, that information is actually sufficient. And I would say to him that, okay, you have to wait for 15-20 minutes, and I would come up with the answer. And required is what? He say that please give me the deflection at a speed of 1500 rpm of this rotor. When this rotor is rotating at 1500 rpm, what would be the deflection or vibration of the tail of the helicopter? Or second, find the rotor speed at which the deflection would be maximum, and tell us the speed of the rotor at which the deflection would be maximum, so that we do not run our rotor, rear tail rotor at that speed. The pilot actually don't know. He is not an engineer. He is just a pilot. As an engineer, we have to come up with the answers. So we actually know the modeling. We are actually the vibration guys. And now you have learned a lot in this course that we could treat a very complicated problem. Very complicated problem in a very simple way with modeling. So first what we have to do, we have to model our system. So first I'm drawing the schematic of the problem. So the schematic of the problem is that the problem is at the tail of the helicopter. So this is the tail of the helicopter, and this is the rear rotor, and the tail is 60 kilogram, and the rotor of the helicopter is 20 kilogram, and uneven mass is 0.5 kilogram, and this rotor is rotating with an angular speed omega r. So this is the schematic. Because I'm engineer, we are engineer, so first we come up with the schematic. Once we have the schematic, then we have to look at the schematic and we have to model our system. So if we look at the schematic, we have already studied this. This end is fixed, this end is free. So we could treat this as a beam. So this is a beam. One end of this beam is fixed, whereas the other end is free. So we have already studied this. This is a cantilever beam. And if we look here, most of the mass is at the tip. So we could treat this as a cantilever beam with tip mass. So one, now we are actually moving in the right direction. We come with a very simple solution that we could model the tail of the helicopter as a cantilever beam with tip mass. So this is the schematic which we just discussed. Now we would be going to the lump parameter modeling. So this is the fixed support which is representing this, and this is the tail. So we are representing this tail with the cantilever beam, and the tip mass is actually the rotor. So here actually we have to consider the mass of the tail, or mass of this beam, because it is 60 kilogram. The rotor is 20 kilogram. The mass of the beam is actually more than the tip mass. So in that case, we have to consider the mass of the beam. If the mass of the beam is, let's say, 1 kilogram and the tip mass is 1000 kilogram, then in that case we could ignore the mass of the beam. But here this is not the case. So we cannot ignore. If we ignore this 60 kilogram, then if we model it and we come up with the answer, there would be tremendous amount of error in our computation, which we don't want. So we have to do assumption, but the assumption would be valid. So here actually the valid assumption is that we cannot ignore the mass of the beam. So the mass of the beam is ms, the stiffness of the beam is k, and the mass of the rotor is the tip mass m, and the rotating unbalanced mass is m naught, and it is rotating with the angular velocity omega r. And because of this rotating unbalanced mass, the tip of this beam is actually vibrating with a displacement x of t. So next, we have to do the lump parameter model. So mass, this is the mass m, and rotating unbalance is this is the rotating unbalanced mass m naught, and it is rotating. The spring, the beam is elastic, so we are taking all of the elasticity here. So spring, and the spring mass, we have to also take the spring mass ms. So this is the simple model, spring mass damper spring mass model for our helicopter tail. So now we have already studied this, we have already discussed this, and we have already a mathematical model for this. So spring, and also there would be a damper. So we have already discussed such learned parameter modeling, and we come up with the analytical model for that. So solution, we are very near to the solution. The the we have discussed that the natural frequency of the system, when the mass of the spring is considerable, we already discussed this, omega n would be equal to k divided by the tip mass plus the mass of the spring, this is ms, by 3. So we already developed that model for the spring mass system, where the mass of the spring is not ignorable, it is considerable. So we have the stiffness, and we have the tip mass. The tip mass is actually the rotor mass, which is 20 kilogram, plus the rotating unbalanced mass, which is 0.5. So the tip mass m is actually 20.5. So this is 20.5. The mass of the tail is 16. So plugging that, so after doing calculation, the undamped natural frequency omega and undamped natural frequency would be equal to 46.69 radians per second. So this is the undamped natural frequency of our system. The speed at which the rear rotor is actually operating, it is omega r, it is not omega r, it is n. N is actually 1500 rpm. N is 1500 rpm. Angular speed omega is equal to 2 pi n by 60. So putting for 1500 rpm in this equation, putting for n, you would get omega. Omega r would be equal to, after putting the values for n, which is 1500 rpm, omega r, that is the speed of the rotor at the angular speed of the rotor at 1500 rpm, it would be equal to 157 radians per second. Next, we could compute the frequency ratio omega by omega n, which is r. R is equal to frequency of the rotor, circular frequency of the rotor is 157. We just calculated, and omega n for the system is 46.69. So putting that, r here in this case it is 3.16. So we got our frequency ratio. For a spring mass damper system with rotation unbalance, we have already come up with this model in terms of frequency ratio and damping ratio. So because we have modeled our system as a spring mass damper system with rotation unbalance, and we have already come up with this mathematical model for the amplitude of the steady state response, capital X. So here instead of actually capital M, we have M, and instead of M small m, we have M naught. E is already there, and the remaining things are same. So rewriting that model again here. So capital X, the amplitude of the steady state response would be equal to M naught E by M multiplied by R square under the root 1 minus R square whole square plus 2 zeta R. Frequency ratio, we have just computed the frequency ratio. Zeta known, M naught known, E known, M known, mass of the rotor. So just by plugging all of these values and then after calculation, the amplitude of the steady state response at a rotor speed of 1500 rpm, it is 0.004 meter, and in millimeters it is 4 millimeters. So in millimeters, this displacement is 4 millimeters. So at a rotor speed, so you have to tell to the helicopter guys that at a rotor speed of 1500 rpm, the deflection or the amplitude of the tail would be 4 millimeter. Next, we have to find out the maximum deflection of the rear tail for this helicopter. And we know that the maximum deflection would take place at the resonance. When omega is actually equal to omega n, when the angular speed of the rotor is equal to the natural frequency of the system. We have already calculated the natural frequency, undamped natural frequency of the system, and the resonance occur at r is equal to 1, and r is equal to 1, we are expecting the maximum deflection, so r is equal to 1, and we have already calculated or know the undamped resonant frequency of the system. At this resonant frequency of the system, we could calculate the speed rpm, because omega is equal to 2 pi n by 60. So using that equation, we could also find out the rpm. N is equal to 60 omega by 2 pi. So using that equation, we could find out the rpm for this circular frequency. And the rpm, that critical rpm, this is the critical rpm of the rotor, which is 471.5 rpm. So this is actually the frequency of excitation, which is critical, 474.5 rpm. So if this is the frequency of excitation, so at that frequency of excitation, actually we would have resonance. The frequency of excitation would match the natural frequency of the system, and we would have resonance. We have the model, and in this model at resonance, this r would be equal to 1. So 1 minus 1, 0. So this term would be gone, and here we would have 2 zeta. R is 1, so 2 zeta square, and under the root, and under root the square, so it would become out, the square root would be gone, and we would have 2 zeta, and this is 1. So at the end, we would have equation capital X would be m naught E m 1 over 2 zeta. Zeta is known, m naught is known, E is known, m is known. So after just by plugging the values in the equation, capital X would be equal to 0.183 meter, and it would be 18.3 centimeters. In 1 foot we have 30 centimeters. So it means that the deflection of the rear tail would be more than half half feet. Half feet is 15 centimeter, and the answer is 18.3 centimeters. So very severe vibration. Very severe vibration at the resonance when the frequency of the excitation or when the RPM of the rotor. So you have to tell to the helicopter guys that you have to not operate your rotor at this speed, at a speed of 474.5. At this RPM, what would happen? The frequency of your rotor would actually match the natural frequency of your tail system, and in that case resonance would occur, and at that resonance the amplitude of your vibration would be more than half feet. It would be 18.3 centimeters. So severe vibration would occur. So a very complicated problem we have solved in 15 minutes, less than 15 minutes, just by gathering few information, and we have already the model. Just we treat our complicated system, and we applied the skills and tools which we have learned in this system. We treat our actual system as a lump parameter model, and we come up with our very important information. So thank you.